Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. In yesterday's video I showed how government agencies turned the very hot year of 1921 into one of the coldest years on record. Millions faced death in 1921's record heat wave, but according to NASA, 1921 was a very cold year. In this video I'm just going to focus on the United States. This map shows where NOAA has daily temperature data from 100 years ago. Most of the Earth has no coverage at all, and the United States has the vast majority of high-quality 100-year-old data. This makes the United States temperature record by far the most important for determining long-term temperature trends. As of 1999, NASA showed 1934 as being the warmest year and 1921 being second warmest. But NASA has since tampered with the data to turn this long-term cooling trend into a warming trend. 1934 is no longer the hottest year, and 1921 is no longer the second hottest. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration now shows 1921 as being about average for the past few decades. But if we look at the raw data, we can see that 1921 was actually tied with 2012 for being the warmest year on record. But NOAA massively tampers with the U.S. temperature data to cool the past and warm the present. After data tampering, they show 1921 about 1.5 degrees cooler than 2012. They reduced 1921 temperatures by more than 1 degree and increased 2020 temperatures by almost 1.5 degrees. That's about 2.5 degrees of data tampering. This is quite a hockey stick of fraud, which even Enron accountants would blush at. Now let's look at the actual afternoon temperatures in the United States. 1934 was the hottest and 1921 was second hottest, and there's a downwards trend over the past century. But NOAA tampers with the data set to turn this cooling trend into a warming trend. After data tampering, 1921 is much cooler than 2012. The total hockey stick of data tampering for afternoon temperatures is almost 3 degrees. That's pretty impressive fraud. 9 years ago, NOAA showed that 1921 was the hottest year on record in Texas. But over the past 9 years, they've erased the heat of 2021 in Texas, and now there's many years which were warmer. NOAA now shows a warming trend from 1895 to 2011 in Texas, which didn't used to exist. This article in the San Antonio Express-News from 2012 said Texas is not warming, and they used NOAA data to generate this graph. The actual thermometer data from Texas shows that 1921 was by far the hottest year. But NOAA tampers with the Texas temperature data to turn a long-term cooling trend into a warming trend, and they massively cooled the past to accomplish this. This graph shows how much NOAA has tampered with Texas temperature data. They cooled 1921 by 2.5 degrees. 1921 wasn't marked by extreme heat like the 1930s, but what was interesting about 1921 was the longevity of the heat wave. The Texas record for consecutive 90-degree days occurred in Encino from May 8, 1921 to October 11th. Encino had 157 consecutive days above 90 degrees Fahrenheit in 1921. The heat waves in 1921 started very early, actually during the winter. Boston and New York were sweltering on March 21, 1921. And the heat waves were still going in late October. London and Paris were breaking heat records on October 11, 1921. And the summer of 1921 continued into mid-November. 1921 was a very hot year around the world, and millions of people suffered from the heat and drought. But reality doesn't suit the agenda of politicians, so government agencies have erased the heat of 1921 and all the years around it. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this fraud for the past 13 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at RealClimateScience.com.